Hey, what is up, Squad Fan Bay, and welcome back to the College Info Geek podcast. I just threw up in my mouth a little bit, but we are going to continue on with the show anyway.
Fair.
Welcome to the internet's best show. I think I was gonna say like resource, and the show got in there, but then I wanted to say show, so I just ended up with show.
I'm sorry about that.
The internet's best show for getting ahead as a student and becoming more productive, but a terrible resource for learning how to hire an online business coach to coach you in your business for teaching people how to become business coaches. We're just not going to talk about that today.
No, not today.
It's one of my pet peeves, Martin. Like, I'll see these websites of people who are like, I don't know, coaches for weird esoteric things that don't seem like hard skills. And then like their qualifications is that they've invested thousands of dollars in other coaches, and all of their testimonials are from people saying they're a great coach, and like their job title is coach.
There is kind of a coach Ouroboros of sorts.
That's a good word. I like that. I don't know. Like, I don't think coaching is a bad thing, but it's just so many coaches who don't have, like, all they talk about is soft woo-woo stuff.
Well, like, and then if you succeed, suddenly you can sell a course on how to succeed, but your success was based on talking about how you succeed. And It gets really confusing and meta.
Do we ever verge on that territory?
I
hope not. I think we tend to talk about pretty, I don't know, like,
I mean, we haven't really
did stuff.
We have like an episode or two on how to make content, but we haven't been like, here's how to start your own online business every episode. So
you know what we need? We need motivational
exactly
episodes.
That.
Listen to this all caps motivation video for 2019, for August 2019. That way I can make another one in September.
Okay.
And then all I got to do is get like a macro lens and some cinematic music and film everything in 120 FPS.
Okay.
Just like dramatic looks at the cameras. You know, have like horns swelling in the background, and then throw some subtle reverb in my voice, you know.
Sounds like you've put a lot of thought into this idea.
Your moment. Do not let opportunities pass you by.
Is this already in
Do
progress?
not let the negativity put out by people who may be around you limit you, because your limitations are set by yourself and only by yourself. See, I could do this all day.
And like
it's
the
so
universe. I may be mildly limited by the universe.
Be the difference maker in an indifferent universe. You want to just like make platitudes?
I guess.
All day. Let's talk about an actual topic.
The platitude platypus.
I want to put that in the video.
My favorite mascot.
People have been up in arms in the YouTube comments.
Really?
Because not for the podcast.
Are they gonna fight
for
us?
The videos. They might. I don't know.
Okay.
I was about to say I think I could take most of our fans, but you just watch
like at once. Have you watched the movie A Bug's Life? That's not how that works.
That giant French dude from Sherlock Holmes, he's gonna show up, and I'm gonna be like, nope, I'm out.
Oh, that dude was cool.
He was cool. He's actually like a pretty dope character. I like him in that movie. People are up in arms because I haven't used llamas or goats recently.
Where are you going to get your
You're
hooves?
boxed in by your memes, Martin. This is what happens to a creative.
That's life.
As a creative, you want to change and expand and push your horizons, but the audience of a creative wants just like subtle permutations of what they came to love.
Yeah, the first album.
You know, yeah, they want the first album, right? And this isn't to say, like, this isn't to badmouth the audience or to badmouth the creator. It's just like the inexorable split in desires when you are a creator versus when you are an audience member of a creator. Because I'm the same way. You know, I'll listen to a Coheed album and be like, yeah, this is cool, but I really wish it was like, you know, the fourth Coheed album, which was the album that I found them. Or like they had put out when I found them. And all the, you know, old school fans are like, yeah, the fourth album was okay, but I really want Second Stage Turbine Blade. That's the best one. Where's those punk influences? And I'm over here like, I don't want that. I want the glam rock from the fourth album. You know, it's just whatever your I guess first expectations and first impression was, that's what you want forever. And it's always a struggle.
Yep. It's the everyday struggle.
It is an everyday struggle. Speaking of struggles, let's talk about something that I struggle with. Minimalism.
You're not very good at it.
I think I'm actually great at minimalism.
Were 80 tabs great at minimalism?
Okay, that was
You were looking up Eugene, Oregon. What did that even have to do with anything?
okay.
Those tabs were so disparate. There was no connection
Okay,
between
some
them.
of those tabs are open because I was doing research, and I'm like, well, the next article I'm doing is on computer file organization, so maybe I need to keep open these 16 tabs on how to make aliases in Mac OS and how to make shortcuts in Windows and all the other things. But then I was also curious about Eugene, Oregon.
Well, everybody knows they have the great file organization
don't
race over there where they organize their hard drives in
Do
an
they?
hour, and
That sounds like
whoever
something
has
they
the
would do in
most
Oregon.
organized. I don't even know how you would judge that.
That actually sounds like something they would do.
You got to
in
have
Portland,
a
though.
panel
know
of
how-
judges.
I don't know how quirky
I don't know.
Eugene is. Maybe it is quirky. I think I was curious. I was like, I don't know. I do this a lot. I will go on Google Maps and I will just look at places and just kind of get a feel for them.
I apologize for bringing up a new derailment topic.
Oh yeah, this is the derailment episode. Very minimalist in our focus here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's why Eugene, Oregon was on there, because I was just poking around in Google Maps.
Yeah.
And I forgot to close it. All right. I want to talk about minimalism. Minimalism's a big topic on the internet. There's all these people who are like, look, I only own 100 things. I've put them all in
That
one
is
photo.
definitely-
Look how cool I am. I travel to a new country every month. I'm like unfairly picking on Colin right here because he was the first person I saw do this, and this was like 10 years ago. And I thought it was cool that he did it because it was kind of deliberate for him. Like he was moving all over the place for
Yeah.
the desire to travel. But I do remember seeing those photos from several people actually and thinking, I should do that. Oh, well, how cool would it be if I only owned 100 things? And then I got to thinking about it and I'm like, what is the purpose of that other than to brag about how few things I own?
Yeah,
on
like
the
the
internet?
number isn't really
Yeah.
crucial.
So I want to talk about minimalism. I think there are definitely people out there on the internet who have put out a lot of great content that is measured and thoughtful about minimalism, like my friend Matt Diavella, the minimalists who he works with, Colin Wright himself, maybe Marie Kondo. I don't know. Does it spark joy? Does it not spark joy?
Yeah.
Get rid of it. I think that's actually
I liked that
a
book.
pretty good like singular idea. So wait, have you read Kondo's book?
Yeah, I read that in like 2016.
Oh, okay. Is it basically like about minimalism, or is it just how to clean up your house?
It's like minimalism aimed at your house with the purpose of decluttering your house, but in the end, it results in minimalism.
Okay. The only idea that I've ever heard from that book is the does it spark joy or not question for deciding whether to get rid of something, which I do like.
Yeah.
But my question is, are there other questions that you use in addition to that one in the book?
Well, I mean, that's the primary concept. Some things aren't going to spark joy, like probably like a plunger isn't going to spark a whole bunch of joy. Some
Spark joy if my
things
toilet's
are
clogged.
Yeah, see, in that moment, you will be sparked with joy.
Yeah.
So it's the book is more nuanced than like the Netflix series,
Okay.
where a lot of people seem to have come away with the impression that she like wants you to throw away all your books or something. And it's like she explicitly says only to get rid of things that don't bring you joy. So if you want your books, she would tell you not to get rid of them. But the book has more time to be nuanced about it, and
Yeah.
Netflix is people watching a Netflix series aren't necessarily listening for the subtle nuance of what she's implying, more so than seeing how people clean their homes, which is also cool. I mean, I watched several episodes of it just to see what was going on.
Is it would you say that the popularity of her show is kind of due to organization porn more than like an actual desire to clean up your own house?
It might be. It was very like reality TV to me.
Oh, does it like follow people who are cluttering? Like,
Yeah.
cluttering
Each
their own-
episode is like her going through and helping some people with their house. It's kind of like, some home makeover show, but the book has a lot more nuance and it's a more fleshed out idea. It's just
So she's like the
Netflix
dog
wanted to
whisperer.
make it
but for like plungers that you don't
she
need.
she whispers to your objects and asks if you love them, and then they say no, they don't love me, and then she throws them into a fire.
It's like Toy Story.
Yeah, basically it's Toy Story
Oh man.
where they throw them into a fire.
Yeah.
Whoa, that really lines up.
Yeah, that's what I immediately thought
All
of.
right.
Was just that fire scene. Dude, that was an intense scene.
Yeah.
Do you think I should read that book? Or would ironically her book clutter my life even more?
I mean, if you have a purpose, for reading it? Like if you had a desire to get rid of things or simplify your possessions?
The only desire I have in that regard is when I buy a house, I want a smaller one than this.
Okay. So
I think this house is too big.
It would maybe make sense then if you wanted to make sure it all fit comfortably.
Okay.
Something that I try to do is I don't want to get space to fit my objects because the space is the harder thing to control, whatever house I get in. Like I have less control over whether it happens to have this dimension in a closet. But I want to have possessions that fit the space well. So I've always really liked like hotel rooms because they're so like blank slate. They're not over cluttered. They just have what you need and nothing else. If I bring a book to a hotel or my laptop for work, that's all I have. And that's what I do there. And that's it. And I've tried to recreate that in like my living room where I take most of the stuff out and then I just leave the main thing I'm working on in there.
Well, that does remind me because I stayed in an Airbnb in LA, and it wasn't a hotel room, but it was like essentially a studio apartment. Really tiny kitchen. It was all one room except for the bathroom, bed, couch, and then there was a really tiny like glass desk over in the corner. But then she had also put up this. It was like a board that was attached to the wall, and by default it was hanging down, so it didn't take up any space. And then you could kind of bring it up and prop it up into a bigger desk. And I thought that was pretty smart.
That's cool.
And I really liked it, actually. It's like, I mean, I live in a huge house, but being in that little tiny studio was just kind of nice because everything felt so well thought out.
Yeah.
Like the bed was also a good reading area because they had put nice reading lamps up. And then that desk area was, you could build it into a pretty great desk, but then you could just fold it down and it was free space on the floor if you didn't need a desk.
Yeah.
And I liked that. And one thing I've noticed about living in a bigger house is I have more space technically, but it is so much harder to use the space as efficiently as I used to when I was in a dorm. Because when I was in a dorm, I had less than 100 square feet probably, shared with a roommate. So all of my brain power went to figuring out how my roommate and I could configure our collective stuff in the best way possible. And we got real creative. Whereas here, it's like, I don't know, I got another room in the basement. It's fine. You don't really think about the efficiency of how you're laying things out.
And you're more encouraged to just buy more things without thinking about whether you have space for them, because you do have space for them. You just throw them over there.
Yeah, there's like always space.
So then you'll always accumulate more.
Yeah. That being said, though, I think that I have some of the qualities of a minimalist.
Probably true.
All right, so let's dig into the actual topic here. I think minimalism isn't about only owning a certain amount of things. It isn't about having blank walls. It isn't about having that like hyper bright blank aesthetic that you can put on r/male living space or whatever. I think it's about not owning crap that either you bought just because you bought it for retail therapy, you bought for status or neighborhood comparisons, keeping up with the Joneses kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Or that you bought without really thinking about why you wanted it. So even if you own a ton of crap, which I do, I think if you had a deliberate reason for both owning it and then like a regularly updated deliberate reason for keeping it around, you are sort of a minimalist, just masquerading as a maximalist.
Yeah, I would say that the intention of
min-maxer.
minimalism is generally having intention. It's
Yeah.
like you have things on purpose, you own the things that you need, and as a result, one would expect you to therefore own fewer things than if you didn't care and owned everything you didn't need. So a result is owning fewer things. And for some people, that might be the explicit goal. Like for space reasons, there are plenty of reasons to want fewer things. But I think the most important part, and really the whole Marie Kondo thing, it's really about owning the things that bring you joy so that you can spend more time doing what brings you joy than managing all of your other possessions. Because when you own a bunch of stuff, the stuff basically owns you in the same way. You have to maintain it. You have to... my car gets super messed up. I have to deal with it. What does that imply? I have to take it to the mechanic. I have to maybe pay for it, depending on how insurance works. I have to call insurance and deal with insurance. Now I have to get a new car because my car was totaled. I have to deal with that. Even if I had really good insurance, which is another cost, I have to pay for insurance forever as long as I'm driving a car and all this stuff.
True.
But even if they covered everything, that still costs me so much time.
Yeah.
And unless I have enough money to pay somebody else to deal with it, which is still a cost of owning the car, like I'm losing everything I have will take something from me in order to maintain it, keep it in good condition, or even just protect it from like theft. I have to have a bike lock in order to have a bike.
Yep.
It's the fewer things you own, the more free you are, therefore. You get fewer features, but you are freer to do what you want. If you own like 100 things or you can fit your life in a backpack, sure, you can go live in Thailand for a few months and do it whenever you want.
So you are freer in that aspect, but you are also restricted in other aspects.
Yeah, you're only freer in like a responsibility sense.
If I don't own a car and I don't own a mountain bike, then my ability to go ride downhill mountain bike trails is lessened. I could still do it. I could take an Uber out there. I could rent a bike at Keystone. I could do it.
Yeah, but that will all probably cost you way more in the long run.
If I kept doing it a lot. Yeah. But I would say like for someone who, wants to do it like twice a year or something, it probably would literally be cheaper to Uber to the mountains and and rent a bike than to buy a $2,000 mountain bike. But I love to mountain bike, and I love to bike in general, which is why I own 3 bikes. But I do it a lot.
Yeah, well, in that case, it makes sense. It's like, don't take on more possession-based responsibilities than you need. If you really were only going once or twice, it would be kind of ridiculous to say, I will maintain all of this equipment and stuff for the rest of my life because I wanted to go twice. It wouldn't make any sense.
Ooh, so I think we can start like forming some reasonable rules of minimalism. The first one I would say is ask yourself, if I want to do something, and let me put this out there, I'm very bad at this. And I know if I don't say this, Anna's gonna say it. I am not good at this, but if you want to do something, find a way to try it like a few times before you buy
you are
the
horrible
stuff
at this.
for it. So like I got into my head a while ago that I really wanted to play Sekiro, so I went and bought Sekiro. I could have just borrowed it from a friend. Like that was not a good decision. Sometimes I make this bet and I'm right, like with mountain biking or road biking. I'll buy a road bike and I use it for 11 years all the time. I put, thousands of miles on it. But sometimes I'll buy Sekiro and play like 5 hours and I haven't played it since.
Yep.
So, find a way to try what you want to do. And then if you like build a love for it, then that is a good indication that you should just, go bananas. You can buy the weird bike computer that no one else would ever think you'd need, but like you're hardcore enough that a cool bike computer makes sense for you. And then the other thing is what you're kind of pointing out, which is like everything you own demands energy from you.
Yeah, time, initial cost,
money,
maintenance cost, cleaning it if you want it to be clean.
So there's always like a trade-off, right? If you buy something, it increases your options, but it also, because of just like how little time there is in a day, how little resources you have, decreases your options by adding to your burden.
Yeah.
So whenever you want to get into something or whenever you want to buy something, you have to ask yourself, what is the burden that this represents, both now and ongoing? And then what is the option that I gain from owning it, and is it worth it? This is why I don't buy expensive watches or sunglasses or anything like that. Like the burden is, it's what, $5,000 or something.
Yeah.
And what am I getting out of it? Status, I guess. Can I go on another tangent?
Yeah.
Like a small one? All right.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to a point in my career where I get invited to events that are attended by wealthy-ish people. Like not Jeff Bezos, high society, like, I'm wearing a tuxedo, but, like people who have maybe in the millions as their net worth.
Okay.
I don't currently have in the millions, but I'm able to sort of like rub elbows with people like this. And maybe there's a way to intentionally get away from this, but I feel like the wealthier you get, the more time you spend in social gatherings that aren't actually fun, They're just sort of designed for you to either meet people to do more things to make more money, or to like kind of show off your status, or to sort of embody the qualities of a wealthy person, like being a socialite or being refined, or, you know, having conversation. And I often catch myself thinking, like, you know what? I had a lot more fun just sitting on the couch with my college friends playing Smash Brothers, you know, not caring about how much money we had, not caring about the fanciness of the beer we drink or whatever. It was more fun back then. And I don't think that the conclusion here is that you should just like not want to make money, because again, like money is optionality.
Yeah.
And, you know, like if someone bumps your car and totals it, like money solves that problem. But if you start letting your level of wealth dictate the people you hang out with and the kind of social gatherings you go to and the events you go to, at least in my opinion, you find yourself spending time doing things that you would really rather not do if you were honest with yourself.
Yeah, it's really like, it's like the money is the same as everything else. Like money gives me freedom, just like a mountain bike, to do something.
Yeah.
But it costs me all of the time or efforts or social connections or appearances I need to maintain in order to maintain and protect that money. And when you're making a lot of money and you have a high cost of living, you have to protect that money.
Yep.
You know, if I'm making like $200,000 or something, I'm living in a really nice house, but I really kind of just want to go like be a musician, or I want to pivot into a different career I'm not good at and learn something new. Well, I can't, because unless I can immediately make $200,000, if I'm fully extended and I've spent as much money as I make every month or something,
Yeah.
I have no freedom to make less money. I can't just go teach English in Japan because it sounded fun, because I need to ask, but will that pay off all of my incredibly expensive stuff? Cost of living is a huge burden to maintain, which is why living beneath your means is a very good idea, whether minimalist or not.
And I found that it's hard to do it, because there are many good arguments for not living beneath your means. Okay, they're not good. They're just, they sound good.
Spend everything.
I've had multiple people, and these people are doing fine. Like, let's be honest. They're not living paycheck to paycheck because they're stupidly buying Rolex watches. Like, they're doing great, but they will make convincing arguments. Like, this is why you should buy a $5,000 watch. Like, it's about the craftsmanship. It's about, you know, it's about like looking the part. If you go into a business meeting and you're wearing a Rolex, then they're going to immediately take you seriously. And, you know, I think there's a lot of appeal to authority there when somebody who is already wealthy, already successful is making an argument for that. Like, you kind of hear it coming from them and you're like, whoa, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, if they see me wearing an Armani suit, they're like, that's the kind of guy who wears an Armani suit. We're going to take him seriously. But when I really come back to my values, I don't give a crap if I'm wearing an Armani suit. Number one, like, I can buy a suit from Suit Supply, or in your case, you can buy a suit from JCPenney and it just fits you perfectly somehow.
Yeah, I guess that was
fine.
Worked out.
But the other thing is, the suit that I'm wearing doesn't make money for the people I'm working with. You know, if I'm doing a business deal with somebody, it's my merit, my ability to create a good product or bring an audience to a product that really matters to them at the end of the day. And if I come in wearing a hoodie and I'm like, here's my track record, you know, I built like the most popular course in Skillshare in the last 6 months, and yeah, I'm wearing a hoodie, but do you care? No, you don't care. So you have to come back to your values a lot, because those people can convince you to make certain decisions because they made them. I read The Wolf of Wall Street when I was on vacation, and he was talking about how like he purposely lived so large to essentially like psychologically force the people working beneath him to live the same way, because he knew if they were living the same way, then they would be dependent on doing really well at his company. Otherwise, they would like lose all their wealth and riches and social circle and everything.
Wow.
If they had just lived like college kids and made $1 million, they could have just gone off and done whatever they wanted for 10 years. So like he purposely psychologically manipulated them all into buying fancy sports cars and watches and huge houses. So they essentially were trapped in the rat race and would have to keep working hard for him.
That is clever.
Yeah.
Good strategy.
And you could say like that guy is a douche for doing that, but it's kind of what our society does on a larger scale.
Yeah.
Like, it's not one dude like trying to pull the strings, but it's just like the emergent phenomenon of all the sides of the market trying to appeal to you in every which way, you end up in a situation that's very similar if you don't deliberately live beneath your means and reject things.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of this capitalism in general. And I think the whole, like tech people wearing hoodies or whatever, that comes from sort of the same countercultural push that I think minimalism does here in America, at least, because with capitalism, people need to sell you goods and services. And in order to sell you goods and services, they want to convince you that you are currently not enough without them, or else why would you buy them? So, like, there are all of these forces from all directions saying, hey, did you know that your life it would actually be only perfect if you bought this thing, or if you wore this suit, or if you did this cool activity? You're missing something. You need to get a timeshare in the Bahamas because your life is not good enough without it, but it would be perfect if it was. Like, everything's like trying to convince you that you're missing whatever it is that you would be paying for. And if we don't intentionally fight that, which is, basically what minimalism is a response to, then we end up with everything. And we have the $5,000 watch and a timeshare for some reason. And then it didn't do much.
And the problem is, once you get the $5,000 watch, you're like, oh, well, my $20 dress shirt doesn't go with this.
That is.
So it's like this slow cancerous
That's a huge
spread.
extra burden to having, because once you get the one fancy thing, suddenly that Walmart table, the plastic white bumpy one, that kind of looks like garbage next to my fancy natural wood bookcase. I guess I better buy a new thing. And oh no, you know what would make this room better? A grand piano. It would look perfect. Everybody would just.
But then you get the grand piano, and it's actually, this is too fancy for my living room.
Well, I'm not even good. Now I have to pay for piano lessons. I didn't want to, but I'm gonna look stupid if people see the grand piano. It's for guests. Although that's like an extra rich power move.
Have you seen the Progressive commercial where the dude works for Progressive, but he's got a super hot wife and he can, I don't know, sing opera and play violin at the same time? It's funny, but I almost wonder if that's subtly trying to position them at that. I don't know, you should aspire to that, but you still have your fun little Progressive insurance.
Yeah.
I don't know. This week's episode of our show is brought to you by our friends over at Audible, which is, of course, the best place on the internet to get your hands on audiobooks. And if you have been watching my videos or listening to our podcast for any amount of time, you will know that I am an audiobook junkie. I go on all kinds of long bike rides, go on long drives to the mountains, cook dinner, and when I'm doing these things, I'm usually listening to an audiobook either to learn something new or just to entertain myself. Whenever I'm doing kind of mundane things with my hands, I like to be able to listen to something that I can, learn new things from. And Audible is the best place on the internet to get your hands on audiobooks by far. They have an unmatched library of audiobook titles in all kinds of genres. They've got sci-fi, they've got fantasy, biography. What are some other genres of books? Cookbooks? I don't know if you want to
historical fiction.
Historical fiction. It's a pretty good one. It's probably better than cookbooks. I bet you there are probably audio cookbooks, but that might be one that I might not get as an audiobook. But they also have all the bestsellers, lots of obscure titles, lots of really obscure titles. There's a classical music appreciation course audiobook that I have, which I will go through someday. And they also have our recommendation for this week, which you probably saw this coming, but we are going to recommend The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have one audiobook recommendation this week. It's a very minimalist
Don't
thing to do.
Don't overconsume our recommendation
Exactly,
this week.
right?
We got one. This is the one.
One recommendation. You could always ask me on Twitter if I have other recommendations, and I do, but we're going to keep it at this one. If you want to tidy up your living space, you want to start living with a little bit more intention, then, listen to Marie Kondo herself. Or actually, wait, she doesn't narrate this. Emily Wu Zeller narrates it, but she wrote it. And it has 26,000 ratings. 4.4 stars. It's pretty popular. I thought
that's a pretty good rating for that many ratings too.
I know, right?
Pretty solid.
My book was doing okay on Audible for having 75 ratings, but nope, 26,000. I think that's what gets you a Netflix show.
Yeah.
But yeah. So every single month with Audible, you get 1 credit that is good for any audiobook in their library. But you also get 2 Audible originals that you cannot get anywhere else and access to hundreds of different audio workout and meditation and other fitness programs. And if you go over to audible.com/CIG, which is spelled AUDIBLE.com/CIG, audible.com/CIG or text CIG to 500 500 on your phone. You're going to get a free 30-day trial of Audible service and a free audiobook download of your choosing. And again, our recommendation for this month is, what is it again? The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up.
That's it.
That's right, because you really enjoyed that book. Maybe I should listen to it and possibly tidy up my studio. It's kind of a mess right now. It might be useful for me to actually take up that recommendation. And I do have a couple of credits available on Audible. So yeah, a free audiobook. Once again, audible.com/CIG or text CIG to 500 500 on your phone. Big thanks, as always, goes out to Audible for sponsoring this episode, being a big supporter of our show. And another huge thanks goes out to our other sponsor this week, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning library with over 29,000 courses in a ton of different topics that can boost your skills and your career prospects. They've got courses on animation, on graphic design, video editing, music production, marketing, and presentations and speaking, which is the category where I'm going to make my recommendation for this week's spot, because Simon Sinek, who wrote the excellent book Start With Why, has a great course on Skillshare called Presentation Essentials. And it is a great course for anybody who wants to more effectively make presentations and public speeches. And I think that pretty much everyone needs to get good at that skill, because no matter what you're doing, no matter what kind of career path you go down, you're probably going to have to communicate and possibly make presentations in the future. So definitely check that course out. And if you want to get a 2-month free trial of Skillshare service, you can go over to Skillshare.com/geek and sign up. Once again, that is Skillshare.com/geek to get a 2-month unlimited free trial of Skillshare. And even after that, Skillshare is a very affordable platform, and there are a ton of great courses on there, including a course from me. So you'll probably see it on there once you sign up. Once again, Skillshare.com/geek. And big thanks goes out again to Skillshare for sponsoring this episode. Let's get back into it. But yeah, there's like this slow scope creep or wealth creep. Like you put one fancy thing in your environment, and then like the rest of things kind of look bad in comparison.
Yeah, like if you clean one spot on the floor and the rest of the floor looks disgusting, you're gonna be like, I really need to clean the whole floor, or just make that one spot dirty, I guess. But
that's what you should do.
That's the real strategy.
I had a friend in high school who he got a used Jeep Wrangler, and he put his own dent in it.
Yeah,
and he was like, I just like my stuff to look old.
That's fair.
And that really stuck with me. Like, I've never been the kind of person who wants my stuff to look old and beaten up, but I was like, okay, so if someone else dents your car, you're not going to care. There's already a dent in it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, who cares?
This happens with all my technology. Like, I baby it. I wash my hands before touching it. I treat it perfectly. I accidentally, bumped my laptop, or I think Ashley dropped her laptop on mine, and it scratched the side, and I was like, oh, cool. Well, now I don't really care. It's not in perfect condition. I don't have to maintain it anymore. It was the perfect condition that was the burden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the first scratch is like, okay, well, now it's fine. It's like
now the second scratch doesn't really matter. It's done now.
Yeah, it's like, all right, well, now I'm on the slow decline.
It's over.
Whatever.
It's over.
I don't remember when the first scratch got on my car, but now I'm just like, I don't care that much. Oh, look, there's a new scratch.
And if you fixed the scratch, you would then freak out about the next scratch.
And I'd be constantly running the dealership. And you'd have to keep
doing that.
Like getting scratch repairs and things like that.
Yeah.
And really, it's like, I like my car to look nice, but does it matter that it has no scratches on it?
Yeah, like a tiny little hail bump or something. Just like, I don't care about hail. Leave me alone.
Especially when I'm using it.
If I live somewhere where hail comes, this is just going to keep happening.
It's true, yeah. I am convinced that it is just a matter of time before my car gets hail bumps. Just living in Colorado.
It has to be. There were so many hailstorms in the last month.
Mm-hmm. I think most of them weren't strong enough to actually dent cars, but
it's just like you roll and dice that many times, then it's going to happen at some point.
You get the bumps. Okay, so what if you want to become a minimalist? Where do you start?
Well, I've wanted to burn my house down and start over from scratch for a while, but that's insurance fraud and will hurt the other people that live near me.
Yep.
And will
property
be
values,
a
big ethical quandary.
I might I don't want to go to jail, although you're very minimalist in jail.
It's true.
But you lack a lot of the options that not being in jail. Well, there is the burden of not committing crimes, but the options of not being in jail necessitate that burden, in my opinion. So I've been in the process of the KonMari method basically since 2016. And just being not in jail is a commodity now.
Pretty good.
It's my favorite thing to buy.
But you're doing it right now because you're in the process of moving from an
Yeah.
apartment to a townhouse. And ironically, your townhouse is bigger, but you're getting rid of things
Yeah.
in the move.
Well, part of so I do like blank walls and negative space. I love negative space in a room. It makes me feel so calm. If stuff is cluttered, it like freaks me out.
What is this podcast studio doing to you right now?
I mean, I'm used to it, but I would be very unhappy if this was my room.
Yeah.
I would kind of hate it if it was my room. If it's not, I can deal with it. But yeah, I've been doing the KonMari method since 2016. I've been trying. I just keep getting interrupted by stuff because it's difficult to go through all of your many years of possessions. But I got rid of a ton of stuff back in Ankeny. I'm getting rid of more now because there was a little bit of overlap in my lease. And I think this is a very convenient situation, but it's not always plausible to do it this way. But thanks to the overlap, what I did was, first, I will move the bare minimum. What do I actually need to function every day?
Like a travel bag, almost.
It's like, so I was like, we need bare minimum kitchen, bare minimum living room. So we need like my TV. I'm not going to get rid of that, my piano. And then like my office desk, the thing I put my laptop on, the little roost stand.
Yeah.
And like, then I didn't want to bring anything else. It all stays at the other place. And then we slowly discover what we need and we bring it over. And if we never needed it, maybe we don't need to bring it over. So,
yeah.
In my case, this is being a little bit exaggerated because my car got totaled in the middle of the moving process. So I'm getting even more time. But you know what? I haven't really needed anything.
That's true. Like, I know you've been frustrated that you can't
I'm
finish
frustrated
the move,
that I can't clean and finish the other place, but what I've basically learned is that probably almost everything over there wasn't necessary. I haven't really thought once about it.
Yeah.
I don't think I could name to you all the things that are over there because I clearly just didn't need them to live my life. And there's a lot of stuff in that apartment. I just didn't need it. It was completely unnecessary. The only side note being mementos, which I will be bringing over at some point, but
yep.
And I do a little bit of a minimalism with mementos because giving up memories and things is difficult, and I think for me it would be ridiculous to just get rid of all of it. I can't do that.
Well, let's talk about that because I think that's a common sticking point for people who do want to start decluttering. It's like,
yes, like,
especially
I remember
when there's,
this.
and it's not even like a remembering thing. I mean, that's part of it, but there's also like, oh, my grandma gave me that.
Yeah,
I never use it. I don't really want it, but I would.
Just
feel
straight
guilty.
up like gifts.
I would feel
as
guilty
opposed
if I
to
got
like.
rid of it. Yeah, like what's the protocol?
That one's
there?
difficult. So I have gotten rid of some gifts, but I find it very difficult, and I usually keep it for a while before I get rid of it, like in like a year or something. And maybe I try to use it once or twice to say I got something out of it.
Yeah.
But with more like memory-based mementos, I've made it sort of a goal to keep maybe one or two things from each main person who I might have a memento from. Mostly family members. And I try to keep these things all within this single chest, this cool treasure chest looking thing that my mom got me, which doubles as a memento from her.
Yeah.
But then if I keep it all in this one area, my mementos are a little box and a sword that I inherited from my father, which I will never get rid of because it would be stupid to get rid of that.
Yeah.
It would be absolutely ridiculous.
Also, it's a sword.
Yeah, also inheriting a sword from my father is like the coolest thing for an inherited memento. But I'm going to keep a small amount of things for everybody, but I want it to be that. I could have taken a whole bunch of stuff when he passed. I could have, but it was like, I'd rather have one object that means everything, that I protect, that I care about, rather than if I take like 30 things, right, from a deceased family or something.
Yeah.
And I put them all around my house. Now they're just things. They're just like commodities now.
Yep.
I won't value each one of them as much as I would have valued a single object or two single objects is a dumb way to say that. But so even with mementos, it's like, what do I need to keep the memory, to keep the purpose? And that's just a couple things in a small area. If I keep everything, I will go insane, and I can't do that.
Yeah.
So some gifts, I can't keep them. That's unfortunate. But if I don't remember the gift even existing, and they probably don't either, because a lot of times giving a gift, it's more about, hey, I thought about you.
Yeah, it's the moment, right?
Like, I don't think most people are going to be super mad that you don't have something they gave you 10 years ago that was like a little random knickknack. I think they won't even think about it, probably.
Mm-hmm. I do have some thoughts on this. So you mentioned and this is kind of getting away from mementos for a second, but you mentioned just taking one item.
Yeah.
When I went to Comic-Con, just the last time, because Anna was selling art there, I wanted to buy some art, and every time Anna and I have gone to cons, we usually buy like multiple small prints because you want to kind of like stretch your budget. But this time, I was like, I am going to buy the exact things I want instead of a bunch of things. So I got like this $120 really cool 3D Cuphead, like 3D scene thing. It's not just a print. It's like,
oh yeah.
I think it's like
cool.
Artrovision. They're actually online. You can go look at them. But yeah, I mean, I didn't buy a bunch of other prints because that was sort of my budget for Comic-Con, but it's so cool. And I know from experience, a lot of the art we have floating around, we'll just like make a giant collage on the wall and never really look at one piece. But
yeah,
if it's one really special thing, or like the Going Merry right there. I went to a con in 2012, and that was the only thing I bought at that con because it was like $200, but it's still front and center in my video set. And it's like the most special thing I've ever bought at a con. So
yeah, it's actually a really good point. It's not only like mementos from people. Yeah. It's mementos from anything. Like if I go to Japan, I'm not big on owning things. I don't like to. Mm-hmm. But I could easily see myself finding one thing, and I was like, that's the thing.
Yep.
It's much more sustainable that way.
Yeah, and then really you have one really special thing that you really like.
Yeah, maximizing the amount of like trying to get the best deal and buy 10 things instead of one doesn't really make sense if the 10 things aren't as valuable to you as the one. Also, this mindset works for things outside of possessions. Like if I'm going to get dessert, it would be, I think, a better idea for me to one time get the crazy fanciest thing I could have for one day, rather than say, well, it's a little cost like $10 ice cream. What if instead of that I just ate like a pack of Oreos every day? Like I'm eating the worst dessert, and it's worse for me in this situation.
Yep.
It's like even if I saved money, it doesn't. A very good experience, I think, it's going to be more memorable than several kind of all right experiences. And aren't memories kind of the majority of what like life is? If I don't remember it, it's like it didn't happen.
True, though. That is a mindset that does require balance, because a lot of people take it so far that they're like, instead of going on a vacation twice a year, I'll go once every 5 years to the most amazing vacation ever. And for one, like you spend 5 years not going on vacation, burning yourself out. And the other thing is you build up the expectations so high in your head about how good this big one is going to be that there's no way the actual experience can meet it.
That's
like,
a little far.
I've thought about booking like going to the French Laundry with Anna someday. You know, it's like $300 per person to eat there. And I'm sure it would be good, but I bet you we would go and my expectations would be far in excess of what the actual experience would be, because everyone said it's the best restaurant in the world, most amazing experience ever. You know, how could it match up to that? A lot of things are like this too, like with movies. Sometimes I'll go into a movie blind, and because I have no expectations, I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
I honestly think like the reason that I liked Alita Battle Angel so much more than Captain Marvel is because I knew nothing about Alita going into it. And I was just like, no expectations. Oh, this is pretty darn good. Whereas Captain Marvel, I'm like, this is an MCU movie. It's got to be so amazing. I think they're both really good movies, but I came out of Captain Marvel a little bit, not disappointed, but I guess my expectations weren't met.
Yeah. Well, this is how a lot of people like get their opinions are soured by like reviews they see beforehand, because if you expect not to like it, you'll find every flaw possible. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, I think you just need to have like the one chill friend who's just like, yeah, it's good. You should go see it.
Yeah.
You know, instead of it's amazing. You must see it. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty good. You should go see it. Yeah. I'd recommend. It's not a waste of time.
Yeah. But getting back to possessions and stuff, because I guess me having an overlap in the lease, most of the time that you want not to have that because there's double rent involved. It's very inconvenient. But
sometimes there's just timing, imperfections that you can't.
Yeah,
deal with.
I was just making the most of an overlap, which it's working pretty well for me.
Yeah.
But, it's hard to clean something if you're just rearranging in the same space. But the actual activity I made to decide what to move is accessible. So if you get out of your house, get out of your home if you wanted to clear your possessions, and then just write down all the rooms in your home or the things you want to do in your home, and what would I need in there?
Yeah.
What can you think of? If you can't think of something, that might be a sign that it's not that useful. Unless you really need it, you'll know. But I wrote them down. I was like, I need a TV. I need a thing to put the TV on. Probably the table so I can have drinks. Piano. And then I started running out of stuff. And when I did that for every room, it occurred to me that the stuff that I can think of because I use it every day and need it, that's the most important stuff. Everything else is an option, which is why it's staying behind. So you could do that. You just need to leave your house long enough to force yourself to try to remember it. Write it down. Come back. Look around. Say, oh, wow, there's a lot more stuff than that list.
Yep.
What's that even doing there? And then it would be more accessible that way, I think.
Yeah. There's probably some redundant things I could get rid of. Like, I have a guitar amp right there, but I have since upgraded to like a PA system with a guitar amp emulator pedal. So I don't even know if I need the guitar amp anymore.
Oh, yeah.
That could possibly go. So I had a thought about the mementos thing.
Yeah.
So, couple of things. I think that you should keep gifts for a small amount of time, even if it frustrates you to have them in your life. Again, you can have like a mementos box or a gifts box. And this is because humans are a social species. And our relationships are forged in part by informal debt bonds, right? So it's an anthropological, or I don't even know if I'm saying that correctly, but it's like an anthropological way of saying people like to give each other gifts. People like to sort of be in each other's debt and vice versa, not in like a monetary way, but just in a, I gave you a gift because I like you. We're friends. We have like a relationship here. And there's sort of like a token of that existing now. So you should keep gifts for at least, a short amount of time to sort of respect that.
Yeah, I wouldn't throw it in the trash right after they hand it to you. Thanks. This is really cool.
So this is what I've started doing. I let people know that I enjoy food gifts. So fancy wine, fancy whiskey, chocolate, fancy beef jerky or whatever. Like, I like those.
Those are the best gifts.
If I get those, number one, I'm really going to enjoy them like soon. Whereas if somebody gets me like a handball set or like a wiffle ball, or I don't know, like, when's the next time I'm actually going to use that? But if you get me fancy wine, I can drink that right now. And then it's gone eventually.
Yeah, that stuff's my favorite. It doesn't clutter your house. Also, if I needed something, I'd probably just bought it myself.
Yep.
In most situations, and obviously sometimes it's a gift you can't afford, then it's really cool. But at this point in my life, like, my family can't really come up with a whole lot of like, I'll buy the new Switch game myself.
Yeah.
I already pre-ordered it. There's no reason for you to get it for me.
Mm-hmm.
But fancy food and stuff.
Yeah.
Every time I'm so grateful.
Or just make
it's
me
the most exciting.
Like, oh, you made me a pie. Like, perfect.
Yeah.
I don't actually need a thing that's going to last.
It's the best.
So yeah, fancy food and drinks, and then asking people to donate to charity for you.
Yes,
is a good one. Or experiences like, I really want to go ziplining. I would love like a gift card to this ziplining place or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you don't acquire things, but you still give people the opportunity to give you gifts, which makes them feel good. If you're the kind of person who's just like, I don't want anything, like, it actually is kind of a souring thing for the other person.
Yeah.
They want to be able to feel important in your life, and people do that by giving gifts.
Well, yeah, and it would be like mean if I was like, family, you can't get me anything that I want. All right, so stop. Like, that's very mean. They want to get me something as a token of our relationship. So you got to come up with something.
Exactly. So yeah, I think it's good to at least communicate those things. Okay, so we've talked about the beginnings of the decluttering process. What if you're not moving?
Well, one thing I've done is I try to move everything into one room, use that room as storage, make my decisions, move everything. So I would put it all into my storage room, which I had at the other place. I put it all in, it's a cluttered warehouse in there. Then, with the other rooms now bare, I would think, what would make that the perfect living room, and I move exclusively that stuff. So it's just the same thing. You just need an extra room. You need it, or a little corner of a room. You need a place to put everything before it goes back out, because otherwise you're just like running stuff in circles. It's really hard to keep track of what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
and it gets overwhelming.
Yeah, and with the Marie Kondo thing, she has in her book, the method starts out by you go through categories. So you take like every bit of clothing in your house and you sort it all at once. You don't sort this room and then this room and then this room, because then you inevitably keep having to go back in circles about stuff you've already decided.
Yeah.
And it gets confusing. So you could also do that. If you're sorting by category, you may not even need a big room or a big corner in a room to store all your stuff at once. You just store that one category on the floor or something.
Yeah.
Sort it out, and then you're done. So it's just, you kind of got to be able to see everything you're trying to sort at the same time.
How do you deal with the what if question? Like, well, what if I do want to use this? Like, you know, my Aunt Petunia really likes Balderdash, and like I never play it, but I might as well keep it around because if she comes over, you know, she doesn't like to play anything else, just Balderdash. She actually has a problem with it. Like,
yeah, she gambles on Balderdash.
Balderdash only. It's actually a big deal.
I try to consider a couple of things. One is if it's something that I would just buy again if I really desperately needed one.
Okay.
Like, but that depends on the price, naturally.
Yeah.
But if it's like, so if I had like something like my longboard, pretty not great condition.
Yeah.
If I got rid of that, I think it would be safe, because if I wanted to longboard in the future, I would be willing to just buy a new one that was better anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't lose anything because I don't really want to use the current one anyway.
And you also have rollerblades and a bike,
yeah, and I've got other options. But also, I try not to get rid of everything immediately. A lot of times, so actually I have a couple boxes at the apartment that are things I'm going to donate, but they've been in those boxes for a few months. It gives me plenty of time to think, should I grab, wait, where was that thing? Oh, I thought I was going to donate it, but I need it right now. I just forgot that I would need it. And then I pull it right out of the box.
So even though it doesn't create the same like cathartic release, it would be good to have the decision to get rid of something far precede the actual.
It's the opposite of the 30-day list for buying.
Yeah. Like, I've decided I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, a month from now, it's going.
Yeah, because some things you don't remember why you might need it, or it might be a cooking thing, and you're like, "What is that little specialized tool for?" And then later you're like, "Wait, that was my favorite recipe. What was I doing? I need that. I don't want to buy another one." Every single cooking accessory is at least $20 at Target, like every one, no matter how small.
Yep. Yeah, so, there's certain things that I've bought for like video making purposes, and then I don't use that piece of kit for a while, but then. You know, like a good example is for a long time, I had a very sort of static video setup where I stood in front of the camera. It was like kind of a medium shot, and I didn't really do anything else. And if I wanted to just always use that, I could have gotten rid of my wide lens, could have gotten rid of like one of the tripods, could have gotten rid of everything. But now I'm like, oh, I really want to do like a sitting at the table video. I need a wide lens for that. Like, you just really can't use a medium focal length lens for a table shot because of the physics of it.
And it would be obnoxious to go out and buy another lens.
Exactly.
When you just need one thing.
Yeah, so I tend not to get rid of camera stuff. I tend not to get rid of things that allow me to be more creative, even though I guess you could always make the argument that limitations breed creativity. But I don't know. That's the tough thing as a video maker, because there's so much I could use to improve videos.
Yeah, it's like will you use this within a year?
Yeah.
Because if so, maybe you should keep it.
I don't know how to answer that question. How do you answer a year question? Like, I could be at the beginning of the year asking myself, am I going to do wide angle table videos where I'm like showing off file cabinets? Probably not. I don't care.
Well, actually, you could answer that by having, if you had a section in your closet, right, and there was a shelf on, like, let's say you put everything to the left, and the left of this little duct tape line or something is stuff. And every time you use it, and you put a little date there, so you know that this happened on March 20th of 2019. 6 months later, anything that you haven't moved to the other side of that line because you've used it, you haven't touched it in 6 months.
Okay, yeah.
So that'd be cool.
I guess there's no perfect way to know whether or not you're going to need a specific thing.
No,
but at least a rule like that kind of helps you to make the likely right decision.
And some stuff's seasonal. Like, I'm not going to need a Christmas tree all year long, you know. It's A lot of it's hard to predict, and there is some inherent risk in getting rid of something. But there's a very good chance that that fear is just we don't like to lose things. We just have loss aversion.
Yeah.
And a lot of things could be replaced, and stuff that's really expensive, like video and gear, that is probably way more risky to get rid of. You know, that'd be ridiculous. I feel like if you're going to have a bunch of something, at least, you should just be able to store it well so that it's organized, it looks good, like it's not just cluttered everywhere. That's basically the same purpose. It's intentionally there. You're taking care of those things. They're there for a reason. I have 3 camera lenses. One of them I almost never use. But until I have something that will repeat its functionality better, getting rid of it cuts out something I might need occasionally.
Is that your telephoto?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like that's kind of what I'm getting at, because you usually do macro.
Yeah.
But then
almost always.
One time you're like, oh, I really want to take fireworks pictures off my deck. You can't really use a macro lens for that.
Yeah, so until I get something that does it better, then I could replace it. Upgrading things is perfectly reasonable. It's a 1-for-1 trade. Or especially if you can trade like 2 or 3 things for one. That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. So I guess, like, how into whatever hobby are you?
Yeah,
you know, 'cause, like, I'm really into cycling, so I own a few bikes. If I was only kind of into cycling, I would probably just have one.
Yeah, and you have like 18,000 guitar pedals down there. But for me, that would be a really dumb idea. Sure, I could use them maybe within a year, but I just don't play guitar really a lot.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense. If you really love something, you're going to probably have more stuff related to it, and it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just started out and you thought that you couldn't make music until you had 18 guitar pedals, and you don't, like, you've had a guitar for years, like, I doubt you're going to get bored of the entirety of a guitar tomorrow.
Nope. Yeah, definitely.
It's
with
less
guitar,
risky
it's
to
like,
invest at that point.
Years of just acoustic playing.
And before I got my camera stuff, I tried out Ashley's small point and click to try out the concept of photography without any fancy gear, because if you can't take photos you like without fancy gear, there's not much of a reason to believe that fancy gear is the only solution for you.
Yeah.
And then my macro lens was expensive, so I rented it for a couple weeks straight and tried it. And then I still thought about it after that because it's an expensive item. To buy it and then not need it that would be annoying. Because I could just rent it every once in a while if I wasn't going to use it frequently.
And I guess to that point, I rented a mountain bike before I bought one.
Yeah, like being able to try it first.
I had so much fun, and I was like, I want to do this a lot.
Like photography, videography, all that stuff's really expensive. Imagine if I just tried out photography, got all the stuff, and then hated it. It's a terrible idea.
So I guess, for the accumulation question, what is the free way that you can try this thing?
Yeah.
Before you buy it.
And so much stuff's rentable. The car that I enjoyed until it was totaled, I rented that. I got that from a rental. And then I was like, hey, you know what? I like this one. So then when I needed to get a car, when Ashley's broke down, I was just like, I liked that other one.
Yep.
I'm just going to get that. I know that I like it. There are no questions. Fine. It makes it easy, and you can rent camera lenses. You can rent basically... I mean, what can't you rent?
You can rent fancy cars.
You can rent lots of weird things.
There's an app called Turo, and I used it in LA to rent a little Porsche Boxster.
Really?
So I just drove a Porsche for like 10 days. And it was cool because, like, in my mind, before I'd ever driven a Porsche, I was like, man, driving a Porsche would be amazing. It'd be the coolest thing. And I get it. And the first day, it was amazing. I was like, this is really nice, actually. Driving with the top down. And then the second day, I'm like, I've normalized to it.
Yeah, maybe that's
Still fun.
all you needed was the experience initially.
Still fun, but those cars start at what, $60K, and the trunk space isn't very good. Like, what am I really getting out of that? I think it just offers me a little bit of like more fun handling while driving. Where else can I get that? Oh yeah, mountain biking for many, many, many thousands of dollars less.
Yeah.
And the adrenaline rush I get on a downhill mountain bike trail is infinitely higher than, slightly more fun driving on legal speeds in a Porsche. So I'll just keep my practical car and then do that. I think that's actually a good question to ask. Like, is there a way that I can get the same or maybe even better experience, or like in a tangential way that will save me money or that will save me from accumulating more things.
Yeah.
Do I need a pool in my backyard, or can I just go to the local pool every once in a while when I'm feeling it? Do I need to buy a trampoline, or can I just go to Sky Zone every once in a while?
Yeah.
You know, those kind of questions.
Yeah, there's just so much stuff that it's easy to accumulate because you convince yourself you need it. Because again, that's the point of capitalism, is that you're like, I think kitchen gear is something that I've had a weakness to in the past.
Oh yeah,
Just like, I'm gonna cook all these things, but
you must have this
then
fancy
like
blender.
I don't use it. I bought a mortar and pestle. I've used it once, and that pesto was amazing, but like it was really obnoxious. So
you don't want to make
so
it.
I'm just probably not going to make it like that.
Mm-hmm.
My fancy Japanese knife, on the other hand, great buy.
Because it's not a
It cuts
unitasker.
everything,
And I guess
it
like
does what I need.
a mortar and pestle isn't a unitasker
It's like too
for
much
real,
effort,
but
though.
for you it probably is. 'Cause,
It's like,
yeah, what are you gonna?
Am I gonna make homemade aioli? Maybe, but like it's just unlikely that I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
Being the perfect version of everything I might try, the perfect, most natural homemade or artistic cooking is just unnecessary for me.
So how would you get that experience without buying all the gears, without buying the cogs?
Well, I think sometimes you just
Sprockets.
need to prove the concept slowly. So like before buying a fancy knife, I should probably see if I cook with a regular knife.
Yeah.
And so this is something my photography teacher told me when I took some classes after university, and he was like, so basically, don't just go buy new gear. First, take as many photos as you can, and eventually, if you hit a wall where you're like, this is exactly what I'm trying to do, and specifically the gear is keeping me from doing it, at that point, you should consider upgrading. But I wouldn't have needed the macro lens or crazy $2,000 telephoto lens or something in the beginning because I wasn't even good enough to use the kit lens on my camera. I wasn't talented enough to make that hit. I couldn't hit a wall yet. There was no wall for me. The wall was my talent. And in cooking, the wall is my aptitude for cooking and my passion for different kinds of cuisine until I hit something where I'm like, I'm cutting a lot of vegetables and this knife is kind of garbage.
Yeah.
I'm cutting so many vegetables every day, a better knife is now worth it. I'm hitting a wall where it's the tool and not me.
So another good idea, go take one of those one-day cooking classes.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Cooking classes. I think I just said cooing. I mean, you could take a cooing class too. You don't need it. You're pretty good.
I'm a master.
Did I do it?
Kinda. It's pretty close. Different tonality, different subspecies of bird.
Yeah. I'm from a different Galapagos
We're probably
island.
related.
But no, so the Stanley Marketplace has a cooking school where you don't have to take like a curriculum, but you could just go for one day and learn how to cook one meal where you get to do a bunch of different techniques.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, you could pay for that, and it would probably cost you more than buying a mortar and pestle, but good education costs money, as it should. But then you're not bringing anything home, and you get the experience. You're like, all right, I wasn't super into spending 20 minutes grinding spices out in the mortar and pestle, but I really liked chopping up these vegetables, and I really liked baking this souffle, so I'm going to go buy whatever I need for that.
Yeah, and there might be community kitchens or something where you can go and use their stuff. I know that there are specifically community places where you can go use power tools and all sorts of stuff like that.
Maker shops or maker spaces.
Yeah, like that's really cool because I don't want to blow all my money at Home Depot if I need to build one thing.
I think the Denver Library has a CNC machine.
Oh, they have a lot of stuff
Like,
at the
and a
library.
laser
The
cutter, all
libraries
kinds
do
of
a
cool
ton of stuff, and they have like button makers. They have everything.
This is another big one. Actually, I don't think this gets talked about enough in minimalism. Community enables a lot. Like if you build relationships, right? So I think about this. Every single person on my block owns a lawnmower. And every single one of those lawnmowers spends 99.9% of its time sitting in the garage doing nothing.
Yeah.
What if we just had a mowing schedule and we all just shared one lawnmower? Like, hey, Frank, can I borrow the lawnmower? I got to mow my lawn. Sure.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm done.
that would totally
Here
work.
it is. So if you just got to know your neighbors, you could share stuff very easily. And yeah, maybe you don't get to mow the lawn exactly at the moment you want to, but again, like constraints breed creativity, cool. I got to mow the lawn at 12. That's my lawn mowing slot.
Yeah.
Today.
Oh no. But like everybody collectively has now saved a ton of money and space.
Mm-hmm. You know, or the whole block could get together and hire a mowing person to like mow the entire block, and like it's just part of your HOA or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, there's like a lot of benefits to be had when people collectively come together, and I feel like that's like a tagline for communism, but like
down with the system. Well, especially because I was talking about how capitalism wants you to think you need things. So,
comrade. But
this episode is not about political revolution. It's about minimalism.
Viva la lawnmower.
We need minimalist government intervention. Revolution.
But to a
Probably
degree, right? Like, there's certain things I want to have access to every night. I want to have my live music set up there whenever I want it. You know, if I walk down to the living room today and I'm like, crap, my guitar amp is at Frank's house, I would be mad. Like, that's something I want all the time. Lawnmower, I don't care. Chainsaw, I don't care. Sledgehammer, I don't even know those things. My neighbor does. If I need a chainsaw, he'd probably just let me use it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So I'm not gonna say you should go to your neighbors and be like, hey, I don't talk to you ever, but can I borrow your crap because I don't want to buy it? But I am saying is forge friendships and relationships with the people that you are in proximity to, because then you can help each other work together, borrow cups of sugar, whatever. I don't know. People don't do that as much these days, I think, because they have friends that are more spread out due to internet and the pattern of moving to cities and not having neighbor relationships. There's all kinds of reasons for it, but I think it is a big contributor to why people feel the need for more minimalism, because we have so much more individualism, and I think individualism is something that leads to mindless consumption.
Yeah. Well, and to a degree, we feel like like the keeping up with the Joneses things, like your things somehow represent how you're doing. And on like Instagram, your fancy food that you eat or the amount of vacations you buy, it's like all status, because we're trying to like impress a community that we don't reach out to all that actively all the time. So what you may need is simply people.
That's true. I think that might be a good place to end this.
Yeah.
You just need people, man. Forge some friendships.
I believe in people minimalism. I'm actually going to cut out 99% of my friends. I'm going to send them a message that says, I'm a minimalist now.
You could be a people minimalist.
We're done. Well, yeah,
like, what if you have a bunch
not
of
like
shallow
what I just
friendships
did.
And you don't have any deep ones? Like, that would be...
Well, that's absolutely true. But that's, how it's supposed to be taken. Yes. Living with intent.
Yeah.
But I want to ruthlessly cut out all the people from my life for no reason other than to say, well, I have 100 or fewer social connections.
That guy on the internet is 100. I'm going down to 75.
Sorry, number 101. Like, you're not having a good day.
One-upmanship.
Yeah. I only have one friend.
But only one upmanship. I don't know two upmanship. It's too many upmanships.
Yeah, I'm a minimalist about my upmanship.
All right. I think that's a pretty good place to end. We've been chatting for quite a while here. So, if you enjoyed this episode, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I don't really know where I was going with that. I guess you can go.
Thanks.
You can go over to cigpodcast.com/272 to find the show notes for this episode. We'll link to some of Matt Diavella's videos on minimalism, maybe the minimalists, Marie Kondo. You just gotta bring the joy to your life, all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, cigpodcast.com is where you can go to subscribe to this podcast, unless you're trying to be minimalist about your podcast subscriptions. I know I'm guilty of subscribing to too many podcasts. So, only subscribe to us if we've earned your subscription. And I don't think we did, because I opened this episode with What's Up Squad Fam Bay, and I'm sure no one's...
Well, now you're closing the episode with it, so...
It's all full circle. See, it rhymes. It's like poetry.
Yep.
Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord.
Yep. Guaranteed.
If you enjoy this podcast as a whole, maybe the episode isn't indicative of the quality of the show, so give it a couple of listens. I listened to a couple episodes, and if you enjoy those too, then a great way to support us would be to either share the podcast with a friend, let them know which episodes you like best, and maybe they'll become a listener as well, or go over to iTunes or slash Apple Podcasts. I speak like I write sometimes. I say the word etc. Go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a rating and review. That helps us go up the rankings, but also lets us know what you're thinking, what we can do better, what you like, all that good stuff. Last but not least, collegeinfogeek.com is where you can go for all kinds of other great ways to improve your life as a student, study tips, productivity, all kinds of cool stuff. And we now have a nice little resources drop-down menu item that you coded. So you can easily get to our college packing list, our essential books list, our main resources page with lots of cool apps and books and gear that we recommend, and our merch store. So check those out. Thanks for listening, and we will see you in the next episode in a couple of weeks. So yeah, August 19th, I think. Until then, stay cute.